So probably the biggest patch in Smite history just dropped, and it's full to the brim with core gameplay changes, new items, a new god, new systems, and more. This video will cover everything you need to know about Smite's 10.1 patch. If you enjoy these quick news breakdowns, then why not subscribe to the channel? It's free and we're so close to 100k now, last chance to join up to the pre-100k club. But without further ado, let's jump in. So the first thing to mention is that this is the year 10 update, not the season 10 update. And that's because this year, and probably going forward, there will be multiple seasons per year. In this case, 4 seasons for year 10, each with their own theme. This patch launches the Season of Monsters, with the Season of Hope up next in 10.3 and 2 more unannounced as of right now. There's an entirely new Conquest Map for 10.1. I have a full video covering it for those that want a more in-depth look, I'll link that below, but for a basic overview, the map is now wider with more jungle pathways, an extra speed buff, 2 new buffs called Silver and Gold on solo and duo side respectively. Silver gives cooldown reduction, which is no longer present on the blue buff, while Gold buff gives a small health shield. Camps have also been majorly shifted around on the map, with green now closer to mid, while red is now on solo side instead of duo like it was before. Pyromancer has a new reward, the Bomb. Throw this at towers or throw an objective secure and it deals massive true damage to the target. It doesn't deal the true damage to gods though, only 300 physical damage, and is quite slow to deploy, so in my opinion it's best used for objective secures on Fire Giant or Gold Fury since it deals 1000 true damage to those. Speaking of, the Fire Giant and Gold Fury pits have also been expanded and you can now fight them in a 360-degree circle around them for a more open fighting area. And the final thing for the new map is the Unleashed jungle camps. Instead of being tied to their camp radius, jungle monsters will now follow you wherever you go after you pull them. This has resulted in several new starts for the year 10 map, which I have a video covering already, link below. Moving on from the map though, we have the new god coming to the game in 10.1, Surtr. This guy is a bruiser warrior with solid damage and CC, a semi-global ultimate, ability to spawn imps which he can throw at his enemies for a stun, a near infinite stacking mechanic on his one that deals bonus magical damage based on the stacks, and a % health heal every time he takes 15% of his max health for his passive. I have a more in-depth video on Surtr if you're interested, link below, but I'm only going to cover him briefly here. Ranked will be undergoing a full hard reset, so every player is set to the same base MMR value regardless of their previous rank and MMR. This affects all ranked modes. Full crossplay will also come to ranked, so regardless of your input method you can match with anyone. Timed queues where matches pop at a set time for everyone is now gone for casual modes. Instead we have a queue that counts up in time as long as it needs to find you a good game, then throws you into a lobby when it's ready. Don't forget to be there for when the queue pops though, as declining will now give you a deserter penalty when it didn't before. This change is for casuals only, ranked is still timed queues as it has been for the previous seasons. New shards are coming to the game. We all know Vision Shard and that will remain the same, but it competes with 4 other shards for that second relic slot prior to level 12 now. After level 12, these shards are replaced with your second relic as you usually would with Vision Shard, so they're only for the early game. Horn Shard reduces your active cooldowns, Claw Shard grants power, lifesteal and ability lifesteal, Wing Shard grants movement speed and attack speed, and Carapace Shard steals protections from your target. On to more general items though. First up, these items have been removed from the game. Some are being replaced by very similar items on different trees with shuffled stats, but many of these items are completely gone and won't be back in 10.1. Many items have received major reworks in this patch. Stone of Binding gets a full tier 3 variant with better stats and the passive now scales up with level. Berserker Shield and Gladiator Shield no longer have power on them and can be built by any god now. Frostbound Hammer's passive is now stronger and applies in an AoE around the target but has an internal cooldown of 10 seconds. Runeforged is similar, providing an area on the ground that increases damage taken after CCing instead of just increasing damage to CC targets, but with a 20-second internal cooldown. Caduceus Shield is now Caduceus Club, with shuffled around stats and is now on the Cudgel tree. Various anti-heal items now have real proper passives on them instead of just the anti-heal. Divine Ruin procs Chain Lightning on enemies hit by your abilities, and this damage also applies that anti-heal. Brawler's Beatstick drops a power field on the ground when you get a kill that increases allies' power. Toxic Blade reduces enemy attack speed and increases yours on basic attack hits. Pestilence anti-heals even more as enemies damage you up to an extra 30%. And Contagion gains the Mystical Mail aura of 40 magical damage per second to nearby enemies after you get hard CC'd. All these items keep their original anti-heal, keep that in mind. These new passives are additional, but they do cost a bit more as a result of this. Winged Blade's passive now applies in a small area around you instead of just to you. Gem of Isolation got the Frostbound treatment with a stronger slow but a 10-second internal cooldown on that passive. Spectral Armor now applies some of its crit resistance to nearby allies as you get hit by crits. Up to 20% of this can now apply in an aura. Demon Blade replaces Wind Demon with very similar stats but is now on the Hidden Dagger tree of items. Breastplate of Regrowth replaces Shield of Regrowth with stats themed around the Breastplate tree but with the passive remaining the same. Lotus Sickle replaces Lotus Crown, but on the Ancient Blade tree with stats themed around that, passive unchanged again. Magi's Cloak no longer has health but has more prots and some CDR, and finally Hydra's and its tier 1 and tier 2 no longer have MP5 but have mana instead. That's all the reworked items, but there are a ton of new items this season as well. Cyclopean Ring is a magical ADC item with a passive that deals max health damage on basic attack hits with a 10-second internal cooldown that is decreased by 2 seconds for each basic attack you land. Tablet of Destiny stacks up from hitting enemies with abilities, 50 stacks max. Your abilities deal bonus true damage based on your max mana per stack that you have. Bladed Boomerang is a nice crit item that drops deployables on basic attacks that when picked up grant extra movement speed and crit chance. Shadow Drinker is a new katana that gives movement speed and invisibility on killing an enemy for 3 seconds or until broken. Dawnbringer is a new hammer that grants increased protections and movement speed on casting your ultimate based on how many enemies were around you. Absolution creates a cleanse pulse around you that gives nearby allies 0.6 seconds of CC immunity after you cast your ultimate. Abyssal Stone applies minus 20% CDR to enemies hit by your abilities for 4 seconds with an internal cooldown of 6 seconds. Archdruid's Fury is a new tank item that grants stacks as you take damage. These stacks are consumed on your next basic attack to deal true damage based on the stack count. Phalanx is a rework of Tyrannical Plate Helm that gives nearby minions attack speed and protections when an enemy basic attacks you up to 3 stacks. Prophetic Cloak is a stacking item that provides protections in an aura around you per stack. Hitting physical gods gives a physical protection stack, hitting magicals gives magical. At 15 stacks of each, the item evolves and gives you percent mitigations based on your total protections. And finally, Cannoneer's Cuirass is a new tank item that executes the next minion you hit with a basic attack, killing it and dealing damage around it while granting gold to the nearest ally. This has an internal cooldown of 20 seconds. There also have been more minor starter item and regular item changes, but for the sake of brevity, I won't cover all the minor changes for them here. One thing to note though is that Animosity is now on the Axe tree and Hero's Axe is now on the Benevolence tree. They've basically swapped around but have the same effect, making Animosity now more available to solo laners, and Hero's Axe passive, which is now on Heroism, more available to supports. Class bonuses are a new mechanic in Year 10 where depending on your god's class you get extra stats throughout the game. Warriors get CDR, Guardians get CCR, Mages get Power, Assassins get Penetration, and Hunters get basic attack damage. You get some of these base at level 1 and some per level. There have been a ton of god changes as well, but once again, I won't cover them all here. I have a video covering the god balance and my thoughts on it if you want to check that out. I'll link that down below. There's a new crossover event in 10.1 for Magic the Gathering. There will be 10 skins total, with 5 releasing this patch and 5 next patch, all themed around popular planeswalkers from Magic. There will be a free quest for each of these characters, and completing them grants themed rewards and in-game boosters. There's also a few bundles that grant avatars, jump stamps, recall skins, loading frames, level up skins, and loading screens. A new battle pass is also dropping in this update, themed around boss monsters with skins for Guan Yu, Kukulkan, Sononos, and Arachne. And that's all you need to know about the Year 10 update for Smite. If you found this quick breakdown useful, then don't forget to drop a like before you leave, and I'll catch you guys in another one later on. Have a great day, and peace out, you nerds.